Hey guys, and welcome to Top Channel 1-on-1, and today we're going to be making this commercial in Blender. And if you want to check out the project files, you can find them on my Gumroad page, YouTube membership, and my Patreon page. Thank you. Let's jump in. And so you can see in the first project, this is what I did, and I basically set up this bamboo scene with this product here, and I made a simple animation. You can see it's a fairly simple scene. All I'm doing is just animating a cloth system, and just also animating the bamboos in the background to appear like we have a slow-mo effect to have a very dynamic scene. So to make this, the first thing I did was model the bottle. That was fairly simple, and gave it some basic materials. It's just a glass with a label texture that I made in Photoshop, and gave it a simple animation of it moving into the scene and then colliding with the leaf, the bamboo leaf, and then creating this shockwave that blows everything away. The bottle itself has this simple particle system. Yeah, very simple setup, as you can see. So it comes into the scene, very simple, and there we have the bottle for the force of shockwave impact. All I had to do was create a cloth simulation for the bamboo stick. I didn't want it to be applied to the whole bamboo plant. So what I did is create this weight gradient that only allowed the cloth simulation to be applied mostly to the leaves, and then fed into the stem. So to get that shockwave of force impact, all I did was animate a force going on and off, as you can see what we have here. So I have this very strong force that I animate on and off by animating affect location and rotation properties. That will blow away anything close to the force, but because the force is really high, the leaves would blow away very fast. So what I did is go on and animated the speed multiplier. This will slow down your simulation and also turn down the gravity of the scene, so the leaves don't just fall down as a result of gravity, but I wanted the leaves to have that collision impact with the bottle. So I had to make sure that the gravity is very low, so that they don't just fall down immediately when we start the animation. So you can see even the collision happens in slow motion, and then at some frame I turned on the force, and because the simulation speed was also slow, it all exploded in a nice slow motion. That I think added some dynamic effect to the background, and then everything else was just animating the camera and blurring out the background. For the bamboo, I just animated 2 keyframes where we have the shockwave impact, and just animated their rotation and position to make them seem like they were also being impacted by that shockwave, giving us that effect. So I pushed the camera into our product to get a nice transition into the next scene. The lighting is also fairly simple. I just have this HDRI image that I have in the background. If I turn that off, you can see it doesn't really add much, and maybe I even prefer the scene without that because it adds a very rich contrast. But I have this area light at the top that gives us that top light, that highlight there, and then I have this backlight to light up the back, and gives us also some nice reflections on the bamboo. And I have this background image that just a sky background that gives us a nice background for our nature scene. To transition into the next scene we have. For this next scene, the theme was simple. I just wanted to have a flower popping up like this, and then showing us the different products for our client. We can see they are different products in different colors, and I wanted to showcase these in a flower that resembles the color of the product. And I can see I have this simple pop-up animation. Don't worry, it's not geometry node based. So the first step to this was to model the flower petal. You just need one, and then you can set up three shape keys like this. So, and set up different shape keys for the different poses of our transition. As you can see, you have 1, 2, 3. So this is our first shape key, or the basis key, and we want to make 3 3 different stages of our leaf. So one like this, and the second around here, and the third and the last one to be the fully closed petal. So yeah, let's set up those keys. So the first is the basis, and then we go to the second one, and we can set up that. So set your cursor at the end here, and then select the last or the peg of your petal, and turn on proportional editing. You can use any of the transitions you have here. I think I tried root. Use your period key to change the pivot point from medium point to 3D cursor, and then you can rotate this while changing your offset a bit to get the different offsets. You can even change your 3D cursor until you get the transition position you want. So, and to see how this is looking, you can go to the first basis, remove, make sure you're working with relative turned off for all the shape keys you're going to set up, because we want to use the evaluation time to transition between one effect to the other. And now another thing you want to make sure to do is you want to change the interpolation from linear to B-spline so that we have a very smooth transition. So if I go back to this, we are transitioning from one shape to the other like that, and now we just need to create a final position, and that is going to be, let me set up my 3D cursor, rotate this, and that is going to be our final rotation close position. Make sure to do this, switch between my 3D cursor until I get something that looks good. Those are our 3 transition position, and again this is supposed to be B-spline. And now if we scrub through this, we can see how we go from one position to the final position. I want to set up a driver that controls how these close. So I'm going to set up 1, 2, 3. I'm going to set up 4 of these just to show you how we can use one empty to control the transition position of this. I'm going to go back to this and set up an empty here, and then just push it away like that. So I can go to the first one. Actually, you should not duplicate them before you set up the driver. So I'm going to add a driver like this. The target object is going to be our empty, and we want to target the X position of this empty. So whenever we move this on the X, I want the transition to happen. Remember, the transition is controlled by this evaluation time, and if we use a driver to control that evaluation time, we're basically controlling the transition using that driver. And so we can go back here and set up our driver, right click, add a driver, and then select our target object, which is our empty. And we want to target, you can right click on the driver, edit driver to access the driver properties once again. So we have an expression here, and that is just going to give you the equation to the final value in our driver. If you go to edit driver, we want to change the value of our driver by the target location, and the type, we want the X location. So whenever we're moving this on the X, we want this to move. You don't always have to go to the driver properties to edit your values. You can just right click into the value and see the equation directly there. So it's just transferring this value on the X into our driver. But our transition runs from 0 to 18, which means that we need a way to increase this value to cover this range. So I'm just going to multiply this by, I think, 10. It gives us the entire range of our transition. So let's see. If I move this, you see what we are getting. I can make another copy of this, Shift D, and it will inherit the driver effect we have added. Now I can offset this by, say, instead of using 10, I can say, instead of using 5, I can say 10, and this will fold faster than the other one. I can have another one. This one we can say maybe this to the power of 2, and that's how you do that. If you want to make the flower, you can come in here, duplicate this, do 3D cursor, Alt D R for rotation, so that I can slightly rotate this at an angle, and then I can use Shift R to repeat that effect, and we have that. And because all these inherit the same transition as the original copy, we have a similar animation. And I have these two. The second one, which has an offset, I can bring that in. You can see it closes. Let's see. It closes faster. And you can even offset it further by adding, let's say, 10. So you can see it opens up earlier or closes earlier. It closes later than the other, so maybe +5, so that it's not too late. Yeah, and again, we can make the same copies. I'm just going to rotate this so that they are alternating. Alt D, R, and then give this an offset. Now we have something like that. Now you can, I don't like to see them intersecting like that, so I can come in and select, make a selection like that and scale those, and this here, scale those in, maybe even just like that, so that they're not intersecting. Now you can see how I close them. Do the same thing again. Let's look at that. No geometry nodes, nothing too complicated. Now to make copies of this, I'm just going to select everything, add them to a group, call it G1, and make sure the empty is also in that group, G1. One issue we're going to run into is that if I try to move this anywhere, the flower animates as well. So what I'm going to do is just parent everything. I'm just going to add another empty, just like that, and just select everything in that group and parent it to that cone. So if I do this, I can move this anywhere, and the reason why the animation is triggered every time we move is because we have our driver linked to the world space. So we need to use the local space. So I'm just going to edit and make sure that I'm using local space for this as well. And then finally for this, it should also be local space. Now, if I move this around, the animation is not triggered, but if I play back, we get that transition, which is great. If I want to make copies of this, I just have to duplicate this whole collection. So duplicate that. And since it's parented to this, I can just make sure that this parent is also in the same collection. And now you can duplicate that collection. And if you select, this, you can see I can have that. Even rotate these however I want, like I did in the final thing. I duplicate this again to get a third one and rotate that. So you can see what we have. So the next thing is to offset the timing. And remember, this is the controller that drives our animation. So I can start with this. So this opens up just like that. And then this should be the next. I can offset the keyframes for that and then offset the keyframe for this. So we have something like that. And then now all you have to do is animate your camera. Within that, you can also select the petals and just give them a different material. So I can make this pink or whatever color, orange. And you can see all the petals in that should have the same material like that. So, and we have that. Then I can add in the bottle with a pop-up animation like that, just a scale. And it should also be in the same collection like it did, like the petals, and parented to the empty as well to have that. So that's how I did the animation. So now we can jump into the time lapse so that you can see how I set up the rest of the environment. Yeah, as you see in the background, I'm using some assets from the Botanical Library, which is a great library if you want a single solution for your vegetation needs, plants, and overgrowth. This library contains a lot of vegetation assets that you can use for your projects, from grass, flowers, weeds, ferns, ivy, palms, succulents, scrubs, plants, pots, and a lot more. It's, I think, one of the best solutions for 3D landscaping in Blender. If you want to get it, links are in the description. Though we're trying to make a render that looks naturally beautiful, sometimes you just want to break and damage things, and for that you can use realistic internal damage that adds damage to any object in your scene. And the great thing about this, or what makes it different from other damage add-ons, is that it also adds interior structure to your object. So whenever you add damage, you expect to see the internal structure that makes up that whatever object you have damaged, especially if you're dealing with concrete. This add-on can add that internal structure like wire meshes, rebar, and a lot more detail. If you want to check it out, links are in the description as well. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.